True story, 2014, a very, very famous doctor, which I'm never allowed to mention his name, but you guys know who this person is, said to me in person, he said, Jay, if metformin and human growth hormone were in the water supply, there would be no hospitals. None. That's what he said to me. Yeah. And this is a very smart person, very, very famous. And so, again, it's not like the elite don't know what is out there that we can use as adjuvants to literally make us impervious.
Welcome to Full Fuel Podcast. What's up, baby?
What's up, man? Welcome back. It's good to be here, bro.
Matt Tech.
How you living today, man?
Oh, dude, full field.
Dr. Alfred Alessi, we're here. Man, I'm pumped for today. We have a great guest on the show, somebody with some high-level knowledge that they're going to really break down some really cool stuff, really high-level information. So Jay Campbell is a 5-time international best-selling author, a men's physique champion, and founder of the Jay Campbell brand and podcast. Jay is recognized as one of the world's leading experts on hormonal optimization and therapeutic peptides. Jay has dedicated his life to teaching men and women how to fully optimize their health while also instilling the importance of raising your consciousness. Jay, talk, because, you know, a lot of our audience, I want them to hear this because I've heard you say this on multiple podcasts. You talk about this all the time. When you're obese and you have that level of subcutaneous fat, which is inflammatory just by nature, right?
Yes.
You are living basically your life, your brain is like living in a state of like discomfort or pain. You can explain it a little bit better than me, but like people listen, man, because this is why you feel like you can't achieve stuff or why you feel like you're like stuck, right?
Dude,
like,
I'm going to elaborate on super deep on this.
Yeah, of course.
So basically, if you're obese, your body is on fire 24/7, 365.
Yeah.
On fire. Mm-hmm. Every cell in your body is screaming at the top of its lungs, help, at all times. When you are obese and you have all that visceral body fat covering your organs, it's just pure inflammation. So inflammation creates a cytokine storm. The cytokine storm is just ejecting all these painful hormones and chemical messengers through the body at all times. So these people are literally living in agonizing hell.
Your body's fighting itself.
To go deeper, to go metaphysical, imagine that an obese person is taking on all these layers of trauma. And so every layer of visceral body fat or fold of skin becomes another layer of trauma. Not just their trauma, but their family's trauma, their intergenerational family. They call it transpersonal, in the hypnotherapy space, they call it transpersonal generational trauma. But I know this, you guys, because my mom was this person. My mom died last year, God rest her soul, in March of COVID. They died. It's okay. I'm glad she's gone because she was suffering. But they diagnosed her of having COVID. Of course, again, my dad being asleep, my family being asleep, they gave her remdesivir. I mean, after I found out all this, I literally was about to fly to Atlanta and strangle my dad. I was like, dude, but they don't know. They have no clue. They're clueless.
Right.
Yeah.
They listen to the doctors. The doctors are also
Whatever
clueless.
Say, yeah.
Literally, the doctors are also clueless. Again, they're trained,
they just listen to pharmaceutical companies.
Trained by the system, right? I mean, all you have to do, the craziest part about remdesivir, and I remember this 3 years ago, is remdesivir, if you guys remember, for you guys that don't know, is the drug that literally cured COVID. But literally in the paper that it was written by, there was like 25 scientists that wrote the paper. They said, well, it cures COVID, but it has this unfortunate side effect of killing the patient. They put out a drug that cured COVID but killed the patient.
So did it cure COVID?
So, but this is what's so insane. But this is what's so insane.
It's a side effect.
It's a side effect. Okay. But this is what's so insane. But remember, they're trusting the science, and we only want to look what cures the disease.
Yeah.
Right? Which COVID is an invention. That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
But the reality is like, you think about this, is like the scientists that gave the doctors, and as you guys said, big pharma and allopathic medicine, this information about this disease, they didn't care about the person.
Yeah.
They're looking for disease treatment outcomes.
Yeah. How
do we solve and create a solution through drugs, which is why we make money, to solve an issue? Yeah. So my dad had no idea, and his Kaiser doctor said, "Oh, we're going to put her on remdesivir," and I found out like 3 days later. And again, my family, no clue. I found that out, and I went insane. But again, then I calmed down because my wife, being my better half, she's like, "Dude, they're choosing. This is their path. They chose this. There's nothing you can do." And so I'm like, yeah, you're right. But I mean, obviously I love my mom. I want to keep her alive. Right. But that's how she died. She was given remdesivir and she was dead within 2 weeks.
Wow.
It's that simple. But there are
that's murder, dude.
Millions of older people, because my mom was 78, millions of older people who have had this happen to them, guys, for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have no idea. Their families have no idea. Yeah. Just like now, and again, this is not conspiracy theory. This is provable. You can talk to any doctor. I was talking to Dr. Keith Nichols last night about this. there are turbo cancers happening from the vaccines.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
End of story. The turbo cancers are happening. One of my business partners, who's not my business partner anymore, but he's a good friend. He's one of the world's leading biochemical engineers. He told people in 2020, and like 5 podcasts that I did with him, he said, "You guys don't understand the mRNA," because he was one of the people that was involved in the beginning of mRNA vaccinations or just the mRNA transcription stuff. He said, "What will happen is 4 to 5 years from now, the people will die as the second and third order effects of them, because the mRNA studies show that all the animals die. All the animals die.
They don't care.
All these people are taking mRNA vaccines when they know that all of the research, which is only in animals, that animals die."
Yeah.
So do you understand? And I don't want to scare your audience. But
you're fine.
they need to understand. They need to
Raw
understand
truth.
this. But
Yeah,
they need to understand
absolutely.
this. Like, most people, thankfully, did not get an actual mRNA vaccine. They were playing Russian roulette on the world population.
Okay.
But there is already a study, and you can fact check this and look this up. It's come from one of the European countries. I think it might be Italy. They actually have identified all the vaccine makers, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and what was the other one? Pfizer. They've identified the kill batches. They already have the numbers of them. They know it was like out of every 140 batches given, that batch was, if you got it, you're done.
You're done.
3 years. You have 3 years tops to live, right? So there's always a control. If we go to this hyperdimensional understanding of they're experimenting on the human population, they're creating hybrids. Look at everything around us. It's obvious, the aliens, the interdimensionals, whatever you want to call it, they're clearly mixing the species and hybridizing us. They've been hybridizing us ever since they started vaccinating us, right? So that's what's going on. But like now they're depopulating us, and they're doing it at a very fast rate.
Very fast. I think
it's true.
I think for the sake of what we want to talk about on the show, I love this, and we would go. I would go for hours on this with you, and we can anytime you want, bro. But for the sake of like our listeners, because I want to get into peptides and stuff as well, in the sake of time.
Let's do it. Yeah, and you guys can
and
edit
not to cut you off.
No, for sure.
I'm not editing anything.
We can always
bro.
edit that.
We're
No, but we
keeping
can
that
edit that and put it in the next one.
Yeah, we can do that too. We're gonna do a next one, that's for sure.
sure.
But man, along with testosterone, obviously you're the guy on this. Look at this freaking Bible you wrote. But you're also the guy when it comes to peptides. You've been using this for far longer than people even knew they were available. I just learned about peptides the last couple of years,
awesome.
being a young practitioner. But tell our listeners, man, what are peptides? Who can use them? Why would somebody use them? And like, give me like your top 5 and what you use them for.
Just so you know, I want to tell you guys about this. So I read people's energy. You guys are very ancient souls. Do you guys know that? Like, you're older. I think you're older than both of us, dude. Well, how old are you?
32.
Okay, so you're probably, no, I'm not exaggerating. Like I'm like reading your energy. You're definitely older than both of us, and I'm an old soul.
Let's go.
So like you have a very, very
What's
old
up, baby
soul.
boy? Baby boy.
No, it's crazy though. Like
Younger.
you're not 32. I mean, you're 32 in this current version.
Yeah,
but
what does that
like,
even mean?
no, dude, you're like
You're
so
meat-
old.
you're meat-
I mean, I'm just like
you're
reading your
meat body.
energy, and it's just like whoa.
That's awesome.
But
I appreciate it.
dude, so the truth is, the question was about peptides.
Peptides,
correct?
yeah.
So the number one thing, the number one take home for the audience about peptides is, and this is not explained enough, they're not magic bullets. And
That's right.
almost everyone that starts off with peptides, they hear Jay Campbell or they hear Ben Greenfield or Mark Sisson or they hear Dr. Seeds or something to talk about peptides, and they're like, oh my God, I want to fix my brain.
Fix everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's absolute, the truest thing you can say is like, look, man, if you're morbidly obese, you're not living insulin controlled, you're not hormonally optimized, which is a huge thing.
Yeah.
And you start willy-nilly, injecting peptides. If you see any benefit, it'll be a miracle, right? Now, that's not to say, and I always caveat this, that's not to say that if you have a severe injury and you're just a disease, you're metabolic, as Dr. Rob says in the Midwest, a metabolic emergency. He's like, you could definitely inject BPC and TB500 into the elbow if you weren't afraid of doing it, and you would see
And it'll work.
some form of healing.
Okay.
But the healthier you are from a cellular perspective, the more effective peptides are going to be. And again, 80% of people are not healthy.
Yeah.
So so the problem is the great majority of people who use peptides get nothing.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, and again, because there's so much devilry in the allopathic medical world, there's pharmaceutical reps preying on uninformed doctors, giving them peptides that are like orals that absolutely have, if you understand the metabolomic and biochemical awareness of how these things work in the human systems, like you would never use those because you would understand it's not crossing the blood-brain barrier, it's not getting into portal circulation. Right. It's not exactly, dude. It's not being cross-chain absorbed. So it's like there's all these things that people don't know about and they prey on them. I mean, a funny story, I always tell the story when I do podcasts like this, is like I had a guy come to me, really smart guy, and he was like, I love your stuff. I listened to you talk about you and your wife using Ipamorel, and he's like, look, man, I gave it 3 months. I got nothing. Like, what's going on? And I'm like, well, where did you get it from? And he's like, well, my doctor wrote me a script for it. And I'm like, from what compound pharmacy? And he's like, he sends me a picture. He's texting me at this point.
Bottle.
Lozenges, bro.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're taking lozenges of Ipamorel, and who sold this to you? And, he ends up telling me, and again, it's just a typical compound pharmacy story of a pharmaceutical rep that sells them a product that it doesn't even work. It can't work. It's not possible to suck on a lozenge of Ipamorel and expect it to get any kind of
mechanism.
Yes, it's a farce. And so, but there's literally hundreds of thousands of people, patients, that have used delivery systems like that got zilch, and then go out there into the world and say, "Oh, peptides don't work. Jay Campbell's a scammer." This is BS. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's always a context, and it's like I always tell people, like, and I said the same thing on the Ancient Health podcast. You have two options, right? You can use a physician who can prescribe them for you, or you can just go the research route. And obviously now, because the limitations are coming in with the FDA, trying to crack down on peptides, a lot of people are going to have to go to the research route because they're not going to be able to get them from their doctor, right? And that's where it seems like it's going as they get more Orwellian.
That was my next question.
Yeah, I mean that's where it seems like it's going. Now I can't predict the future, but I mean I've seen the last 20 years of medicine, right? They outlawed anabolic steroids in 1993 or whatever it was, 1992, and did they ever come into the market legally again? Not really. Testosterone is therapeutically administered if you have a clinical need.
Right.
They also will, prescribe like low dose anabolic agents for certain people in certain conditions, but they never came back in. But there's a massive underground market around the world. Yeah. So why would the same thing not happen with peptides?
And like with BPC specifically, because we both have seen massive benefits
with
with injuries.
unreal,
Dude, I healed my knee. He healed his wrist after he tried to be Tony Hawk on a freaking skateboard. But man, we've seen fantastic healing from it. Yeah. That is one you've talked about that maybe they're going to try to limit availability of it because
they already have.
They want to get their hands on it and get the money from it.
It's already happened. So what happened on September 29th last year was they classified 28 peptides as class 2. And what that means is, in the scientific statement of it, is known to cause harm or potentially not disease curing. Okay. Right? So it's like you've got all these. Let's just put it this way. You've got all the best peptides that people use or actually have access to that they've now said, oh, you can't use them. So there's no law.
It's a control grab.
It's absolutely. It's a money grab. It hasn't been made into law. But basically, if you're a compound pharmacy owner, you know that when the FDA puts something into class 2 and you still manufacture it, they can literally come to your place and shut your ass down and take your license. So your livelihood is at stake, right? But if you talk to these guys, and I just was talking to them in December at A4M in Vegas, dude, most of those guys got 60% of their working capital in the materials, that they purchased, the GLP-1 agonists. We want to talk about those on this podcast because they're important, but it's like, if you're a business owner and you have 60% of your future working capital already in the marketplace for a product that you make money hand over fist, are you going to shut down your business because you get a threat from the FDA? No. You're going to basically say, come shut me down, motherfucker.
Let's go. Yeah, try me.
and literally that's what happened, or might be what happens if you talk to the smart attorneys that work in regulatory. They're going to say, look, the FDA doesn't have an arm
Take your chance.
of enough people to go out and shut down every compound pharmacy or every clinician that's prescribing peptides. It's still a risk.
So many,
You're still rolling the dice. You're spinning the roulette wheel. But I mean, most people, who have so much money invested and obviously their license and their business, acumen into doing this. And because, I mean, you guys know too, they help people. So if you're a healer and a clinician, why are you going to say, I'm not going to stop helping my clients because this Orwellian draconian industry or regulatory body says, fuck you, you can't sell these anymore. And again, you said it best. It's definitely a money grab. At the end of the day, peptides solve issues. They don't band-aid and medicate symptoms like big pharma drugs. That's the difference.
So essentially your take on it is like, if you're metabolically unhealthy and you're obese and you're sick and you got all this stuff, you try to take a peptide to fix that is like trying to put the cart before the wheel. Essentially, like you got to learn the fundamentals.
It's
Get yourself healthy.
basically like racing a Ferrari against a Yugo.
It's
There's
for
no
optimizing.
shot.
It's not for getting you
Yes.
healthy. It's for once you're healthy, optimizing that to a higher level, which is what all of us are about on the show.
100%, and that's why, you know, again, the same question was asked on the Ancient Health podcast, and I told them, they were like, you know, because solutions, give actionable advice. Actionable advice is very simple. It's fourfold. Number one, be lean. If you're lean, you will live longer and stronger.
Listen up.
Than any person.
Yeah, look at this guy.
No, but I mean, like literally,
Fucking
if you're lean, you will live statistically longer than anything else.
Yeah.
Nothing will keep you alive longer than by being lean.
Pop that top, Jay.
Dude,
Pop that top.
Come on, man.
all the
This guy
100
wants you to take a shirt off.
all the 100 hold on all the 100
Packet heat.
what do they
Put
call
that
them, the
thing away,
octogenarians, the people that are living
Yeah.
over 100? You look into all those people and they're tiny, thin people.
Yeah.
They have no
course.
body fat,
Right.
right? They're usually Japanese,
Got it.
but like and they eat a macrobiotic diet. But the reality is like they don't die because all disease stems from inflammation. And inflammation comes from an inflamed microbiome. And an inflamed microbiome leads to acidity, and acidity causes fat.
Yeah.
It causes, again, metabolic dysregulation, triglyceride formation, and then triglyceride becomes triglycerol. Triglycerol becomes visceral body fat.
All right, now I got it. All right, so let's dive into this a little
Yeah.
bit deeper because I'm sure you know the name, but Dr. Ross Pelton. He's on your podcast not too long ago. And so you guys were digging deep. I don't think at the time you were taking rapamycin, but maybe you are now.
No, I'm not.
Oh, you're not?
Not yet. No.
Okay, so let's if we could just talk a little bit about that, because I wanted to talk a little bit about, get nerdy on that, and then specifically associated autophagy and then autophagy and how that relates to mTOR.
For sure.
So those three things I think are pretty important that I want to learn specifically a little bit more about.
So yeah, 100%. So let me just caveat that by saying more important to use metformin right now than rapamycin.
Okay, yeah, I knew you were okay.
Yeah, so I mean, metformin is absolutely right now, and again, no one can debate me on this, although they'll try. It is statistically the most powerful anti-aging / age regression drug, or it's really a supplement. It's a plant that Big Pharma patented. They made it into a drug, but there's no side effects from it, although people get side effects because if you're a flaming human dumpster fire with all sorts of crap going on in your stomach and you take metformin will cause distension, flatulence, until it kills all of the bad shit growing in your stomach.
Yeah.
Which again, 90% of people have candida, yeast.
Full of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
full of it.
Yeah.
That's the best way to say it. So you start using metformin, it kills it.
Metformin,
and then
right.
before you know it, you're going to be feeling better. I mean, metformin, again, I wrote a 10,000 word article. It's cited on the EDU and Harvard Med. But like the reality is it's like, it does so many good things that you can't afford not to take it. You guys should be taking it. I mean, literally, I tell people this all the time. If you can get it, your parents can get it, you should start taking it when you're 18 years old. It does so many amazing things for the human microbiome. Again, if we know the microbiome is the etiology, the origin of all disease, why would you not make it impervious?
Yeah.
You want to fortify the microbiome. And metformin is going to fortify the microbiome. But to your question about rapamycin, we wrote an article about rapamycin 3 years ago, and now I just did the podcast with Ross. Now, Ross definitely has a financial bet on pushing rapamycin, right? Because he sells one of the supplements, or the company that is making it. I will say that, to his credit, the science has changed. When we first started looking at rapamycin like 6 years ago, we realized it was a drug that they gave to people that had organ transplants.
Okay.
Because of, again, this profound ability to suppress mTOR.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with suppressing mTOR is like it's a game of balancing, right? Like there's sometimes where we don't want to suppress it too much, but at the same time, exactly.
Yeah, right.
It's like taking human growth hormone. Like I'm a huge supporter and proponent of a microdose of growth hormone as soon as you're 35 and older, if you can get it. Again, not the bro bodybuilding type, right?
Yeah.
The Pfizer pharmaceutical quality, or the genotropin or whatever that's out there, norditropin, the stuff that comes in a pen. Because there's so much research on growth hormone that shows that when you use a micro precise dose of growth hormone, it simulates a very perfectly healthy cellular cell. Right? So you're literally looking at like taking if you're a 45-year-old plus man or woman and you start using a 1 or 2 IU dose of growth hormone in the morning when you wake up, you will literally reverse your biological age to like a healthy cellular age of when you were like at your peak. So like 18 to 22, right? I've been using human growth hormone now for 3 years. and I don't think I'll ever go off of it. And again, my wife takes 1 IU and I take 2 IUs. My biological age is in my early 20s. People know what I look like. I mean, I have no issues or energy. I mean, like I sleep like a baby. So I mean, like I know what it does. But again, it's another one of those drugs / medications that people don't, when I say people, I mean the dark side, if we want to call them people. They don't want people using because, again, how would then that benefit Big Pharma? True story, 2014, a very, very famous doctor, which I'm never allowed to mention his name, but you guys know who this person is, said to me in person, he said, Jay, if metformin and human growth hormone were in the water supply, there would be no hospitals on the planet. None. That's what he said to me.
Yeah.
And this is a very smart person, very, very famous. Yeah. And so, again, it's not like the elite don't know what is out there that we can use as adjuvants to literally make us impervious. Right. But again, if I was starting from the beginning, I would tell you that first line of defense is being lean. Second line of defense is knowing if you have a hormonal deficiency. Yeah. Third line of defense is becoming hormonally optimized. And then after those 3 things are met, then you start looking into using peptides, human growth hormone, metformin, all these things. Yeah. But again, if you just very basics, it's, how do if I'm not lean, I want to get lean, I have to make sure I don't have a hormonal deficiency. Because if I have a hormonal deficiency, all systems are haywire. Yeah. So it's very difficult to have energy to work out, to do cardio, to fast, to do all these things, right? But back to your original question about autophagy and using rapamycin, everyone should fast. Yeah. I'm a big, obviously you guys don't have that book up, but my latest book is 30 Days to Shreds. And we're going to talk about that. Yeah, it really honestly is. And because I've read them all. It's the best book ever written on fat loss, but in a way that is relatable to the average person, right? Because we teach you, if you're this guy, which is the 500-pound metabolic emergency, or you're us and you're, wanting to get a 5% body fat and chiseled for whatever it is, or a bodybuilding show or a physique show or a fitness show, a bikini show, whatever it is, like it's all in there, right? And we use everything in the kitchen sink, and we also give you a program to do nothing. Right? Like you don't have any access to anything. You're going to do this naturally. Go this way. Right? You're not going to get the results of the guy who has everything. But you still can get results, right? And I have pictures, dude, of people. It's really incredible because I don't know what to do with them. I've got like 20 before and afters right now of people that literally have lost 150 pounds in less than 6 months. They're unreal. Like they're like, you look at these things and you're like, oh my God, this is so profound. But we don't know what we're going to do with them yet. And all of them are like, oh, I want you to share my story. So we're attempting to figure out what we're going to do with it. But I know that 30 Days to Shreds works. I know that fasting works. I know that if you're a man or woman without any understanding of training or exercise or anything, if you just can get your body to fast for 22 hours once out of every 7 days, you will live longer and stronger than the average person. Because again, what fasting does, back to your original question, is it increases autophagy, it increases hormesis. And to not be a dork and get really granular with what those things mean, the simplest way for the average person to understand is it literally means it's a cellular fumigation. Yeah. So when you allow your body, again, through fasting, to have hormetic response and autophagic response, you're getting rid of all the bad cells, which are, as you know, senescent cells. Right. And senescent cells are basically the gunk that's internal.
Yeah, your machinery can't turn when those things are just hanging out.
And dude, everyone has senescent cells. It's part of life. The harder you train, the more you're like me, the more senescent cells you produce, right? Because you're sloughing off so much in the work that you do that you have to do a way of cleansing them. And that's why I tell people that fasting is so important. Now to say, because I know you have an audience that do this, because people ask me all the time, they're like, bro, talk about nutrition. Like, what do you think of keto or carnivore, right? And I always tell people, like, all that stuff is nonsense because I'm not casting shade on any of those programs, but like you have to learn how to become metabolically flexible.
We talk about that. That's a big one.
Of course, but like people have to understand that like you fuel your body relative to its energetic demand.
That's right.
If you're a bodybuilder and you try to go without eating carbs, you're a dumbass, right? Period. Your body needs to replete glycogen. If you're an Ironman or a triathlete and you want to use a keto diet or a carnivore diet, that's fine, right? Because your body absolutely scientifically, provably can get by using fat as its primary fuel source. But if you're like us and you just want to look better naked as you get older, you want to utilize everything. That's right. Plus, why do you want to deprive yourself of food sources? Every person, and again, I say this, a lot of people do not know this, but I say this about keto bros and keto hoes because I literally did a ketogenic diet for 3 years. Okay. I was one of the very first people that was involved in doing this. Lyle McDonald, who's completely insane, who wrote the first book on ketogenic dieting, which was called Ketogenic Diet in Theory and Practice, which was published in like 97 or 98. I was one of his crash test dummies for 3 years testing the ketogenic diet. I know everything there is to know about ketogenic diets. I got shredded on it, and I also crashed my insulin metabolism. I know what happens when you stay in ketosis for a long time. Now, if you need to stay in ketosis for a medical reason, staying in ketosis is absolute buffoonery. You literally will retard your insulin metabolism. All these people that stay in carnivore or keto, especially women. Especially women, they fuck up their metabolism. They crash their thyroid so hard that they literally permanently alter their body's ability to burn calories. And then there's damage. You know, and then they attempt to reverse diet and they do all these things. And it's like, no, dude, your thyroid doesn't work anymore.
Well, they don't realize that insulin is anabolic. Insulin is
100%.
We need it for building, right?
100%.
That's that whole post workout.
They tried to hack it. Look, they tried to hack it, and again, I was part of this with the cyclical ketogenic diet, which is 6 days keto, 2 days ramming carbs into your body, and getting all the anabolic cascades and processes of having a higher insulin. But again, even that, there's just too many downstream effects. Things go wrong. It's not. You said it best. It's not maintainable.
Yeah, that's right.
You cannot stay in a deficit where you don't get insulin in your body. Now, again, the scientist dorks will come and say, Jay, that's not true. If you eat enough protein through keto, or what is it when you convert sugar into protein? So it's like
gluconeogenesis.
Gluconeogenesis. So the reality is like, yeah, sure, you can eat a lot of protein and you can get carbs from it, but it's an inefficient process. You can't replete muscle glycogen. It's exactly.
So like a fail-safe.
But dude, every woman and man that stays on either a carnivore or keto diet, again, hardcore for a long time, fucks themselves up. And you will always hear them, again, the honest ones that can admit it, they will come out and they will say, yeah, I made a mistake. Now, the smart ones, and there's a really, really smart guy in this Tampa area, you might know him, Danny Vega. He's a really good friend of mine. He's a big influencer. He's a carnivore guy, and he will always talk about, he's like, carnivore is meant to still replete glycogen. You have to have refeeds. So the smart people have adapted it to know that, like, no, you got to add carbohydrates in at specific times. Again, especially if you train at some form of intensity where you build muscle. It's not possible, So it's like, I always tell people, don't get fixated on the energy, get fixated on the metabolic flexibility. How flexible are you? Are you a bodybuilder? Then, hey, you can fast and you can eat. Okay. If you're a triathlete, you can absolutely fast and eat fat. But you got to learn what is your energy demand, and then you feed yourself relative to that.
Freaking
It's
love
that simple.
Man. He's like the perfect guest for the show. You want to just come be our third host? we'll just bring you on full time. But man, that was so good. So much information. Man. We want to obviously shout you out and plug you and let you talk about. Okay, where can people find you online? You have an awesome online community. I'm a member of. That's actually how we connected. Matt's going to become a member of it, obviously.
Awesome, man.
But talk about what that is, man, and where can people get your books, especially the 30 Days to Shreds, because that thing is, I have the copy of it. It's freaking awesome. So.
Yeah, thank you. So for sure, and thanks for you guys bringing me on the show.
Dude, absolutely. Hell yeah, man.
Important. This was amazing. We had an incredible conversation.
So good.
So easiest way, and whenever I do podcasts now, we created basically a vanity URL. It's jaycampbell.com/free books.
Okay.
And they can get every one of these books for free. The only two they don't get for free are the two newest ones, the Peptides book and the 30 Days to Shreds, because it's still on sale on Amazon, but we do give the first 2 chapters of each.
Cool.
Wow. And then there's all sorts of new stuff that we just added to it. So the peptide cheat sheet, which is amazing, right? Because like the number one question that people have about peptides is like, how much water do I put in the vial? So we created
you have a calculator online.
So we have that too, but that becomes hard. That's what Courtney was saying on the Ancient Health podcast. She was like, dude, the reason I love you so much is she's like, I literally listened to an Instagram reel you did, like it was probably 2 months ago. I don't remember, but he was like, I said it, like, look, if you don't have 100 IQ, you shouldn't do peptides. And she's like, that's so savage.
Unapologetic though. I freaking love that.
No, but I mean, it's true. And I mean, we learned that. We learned that when I put my first peptide course out into the world 3 years ago, which was really good. It was again with Nick Andrews. But like, we had so many people that would ask questions that were like, dude, you're not going to understand this until you practice. And again, and true story, because I don't want people to think that I'm that much smarter than them, because I'm not. The difference between an expert peptide user and a non one is just a person that actually injects themselves. That's it. You just have to inject yourself and learn what works.
Yeah.
It's literally that simple.
Trial
It's
and error.
overcoming the fear. Right. It's overcoming the fear of injecting, right? Knowing, I mean, you guys know, it doesn't hurt. You can jam yourself
Feel
with a
nothing.
32 gauge needle in the
Nothing.
belly and you never feel anything. You can even do it
Absolutely.
here, right? But
I was doing it on my knee. Yeah.
But there is a needle phobia, right? There is absolutely a needle phobia. So once you overcome, and by the way, the word for that is called tyrannophobia.
Tyrannophobia.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
There's
why.
also a placebo too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, everything is everything. Again, if we go back to the meta and talk about the spiritual, we're shells. We really are energy.
Yeah.
So if
can
if you
overcome it.
know you are energy, you're not going to die from a needle injection.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
don't even feel physical pain unless you allow your mind to feel
You hype
the
yourself
pain.
up, you get all scared of it, and then it hurts worse.
If you say, I'm going to inject myself with this peptide and I am going to heal whatever injury I have and I'm never going to feel pain, and you literally close your eyes and you create that reality, that's exactly what happens.
Power of the subconscious mind. Yeah, that's right.
100%. But people, you just said it, they hyperventilate.
That's right. Yeah.
They get so afraid of doing it,
Shock
you know?
themselves.
And that's like half the emails or, questions I get from people is like, so-and-so said something's going to happen, or do any studies. I mean, whenever I have people that message me or ask me and say, I'm not going to do peptides because I don't know enough studies, I always laugh at them and says, no, you don't know anything, because the truth
do it.
is there's, that's what I should say. But like 40 or 50 years of studies in Russia.
Yeah.
Russia has been using peptides and bioregulators for 50
Way
years.
ahead, yeah.
Oh, way ahead.
Human trials too. So that's what I
Yeah,
love
in
about-
humans. Yeah, exactly. So it's like when people say there's no studies, it just means you don't have access to them.
Yeah, 100%.
Just like when I couldn't find anything about testosterone, it's because I couldn't read Russian and Bulgarian.
Yeah.
But they all knew,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The craziest part about testosterone, as a final thought, is there's never been a single randomized controlled trial that's ever shown that blocking estrogen helps when somebody is using testosterone. Think about that.
Yeah.
And yet it's 80% or
That's the
90%
approach. Yeah.
of the medical practicing community is to block estrogen when on testosterone, because again, it comes from bodybuilding subculture. They think you got to have high estrogen and high testosterone and low estrogen, which is the exact opposite of the truth.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
And in summary, man,
crazy.
we're on the same wavelength. This people listening, man, be your own doctor, right? Like read, freaking go educate yourself instead of just trusting someone's kind of blanket opinion, right? And like obviously docs are out there to make money, right? They're all, I'm trying to make money in my
We're all
practice too,
making money,
but
yeah.
not at the expense of helping people in the right way. So
I think
Exactly.
one of the biggest things though that I've done over the past year, and you're obviously a voice for this, is I've actually eliminated a lot of people and focused on just a few.
have to, bro.
Because you have to. It gets so noisy, so you have to pick, and then you're like, who speaks most intelligently? Obviously, Jay Campbell speaks pretty intelligent. You know what I mean? So it's like you gotta eliminate a lot of voices and focus in on the one or two that ultimately that you want to hear.
It's harder for you guys, like even my daughters. I mean, what are you guys, like 20, 18, 19, 20? How old? 23? How old? 22. So it's way harder for you guys because you guys came up in a world where there's so many signals.
yeah.
There's so much noise. There's so
Distraction
many people talking. So it's like, how do you discern or how do you decipher, like, who do I listen to? So it's like I tell people, and I do this with my daughters, like, you got to have an inner work practice. Like, you literally do have to go out 10 minutes or 15 minutes in the morning and just sit in nature and listen to the birds. Don't have your phone. Don't have headphones, Bluetooth. Don't have, chakra stuff. I mean, literally just sit there and
Separate
listen
yourself.
to
Yeah.
nature. And once you start doing that regularly, though, you absolutely will develop a practice that will allow you to determine who do you want to listen to. Because you cannot be bullshitted when you're connected to source. You cannot. But source connection comes from practice. Just so like you guys have to lift to build your body and get bigger muscles and eat more protein to build, you got to practice your meditative or contemplative practice. You got to do it every day.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be sitting in the lotus position.
Yeah.
Meditating. It's just being still.
Yeah.
It's getting away from all of this nonsense and all this technology and just literally sitting in nature and listening.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. I mean, if you can get close to an ocean, that's better, right? But I mean, the more deep you can get into nature and connect with the sounds and really the awareness of it, the better you're going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So-
something that I've enjoyed about, like, specifically running, is that I'll
Oh,
go
it's
out, but I'll
amazing.
detach and won't wear headphones, and then will leave my phone behind just to hear the birds chirp.
Dude,
and
just walking.
the wind
I tell people
between
this all the
trees.
time. I mean, this is not woo-woo. People think it's woo-woo, but literally the birds will change the tonality of their singing to lower your cortisol. So if you go outside, any of you guys can do this right now. If you go outside in the morning and you're stressed out, you just had somebody cancel on you or somebody MF'd you or whatever, and you're just like, fuck this. And you go outside and you just sit down in the backyard and you listen to the birds. I swear to God, within 5 minutes, your stress will be gone. Because they literally have a tonality to, and again, it's all natural. We're all connected. You guys know this. Yeah, we're all connected. Like, they will lower your stress just from the singing. It's amazing, but we're so disconnected from nature because of all this. And again, it's all by design. But like, it's a choice to stay disconnected.
Yeah,
true.
You can become connected to nature in a second.
Yeah.
Like literally when I go home right now, hopefully if it's not raining, I think it was starting to sprinkle when we got here, but I will literally go out and I will sit in my backyard. It's been a very productive day. And I will sit in my backyard. I mean, if it's pouring, I won't, because I'm not going to get soaked, but I'll sit in the rain if it's sprinkling on me. But I'll just sit. The problem with sitting in the rain is you can't hear nature. You just hear the water. Right? But like, I'll sit in my backyard and do nothing for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And my wife will not. Sometimes I'll bring my phone out and I'll leave it on like the thing. But like, my wife knows when I go out in the backyard, don't interrupt me. Don't come out. Yeah, don't come out and like say, hey, you gotta go pick up so and so or blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Just let me be here.
Yeah.
I don't take advantage of it. I don't sit there for an hour.
Yeah.
But even if it's just 10 or 15 minutes, like it's just
enough. Yeah.
That is decompressing parasympathetic.
Yeah.
Because again, we are, especially guys like us, like we are on all the time.
Yeah.
On, right? So it's like, I want to just lower and get off.
Right. Decompress.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Man, so jcampbell.com//free books.
Free books.
What's your Instagram?
Jay Campbell 333 is everywhere. YouTube,
Okay.
Twitter, Instagram.
Guys, go get a copy of these freaking books, man. They are next level game changers. Man, I got one more question for you. I ask this every guest on the show. It's kind of become my thing. But
love it.
When we talk about living fully fueled, right? You have to be optimized in all areas of life. So we have these 6 pillars that we try to subscribe by: is fuel, movement, sleep, mindset, spirit, and work, right? And when you have all 6 of those optimized, you are fully fueled. Tell me, man, what does Jay Campbell living fully fueled look like?
Living fully fueled for Jay Campbell is 7 hours of sleep a night. Obviously, maintaining my hormonal optimization regimen, maintaining my growth hormone or peptide regimen. Making sure that I spend a solid hour with my daughters every night. We just changed our familial spousal obligation things, where it's like my daughters are just gonna live with me full time. I raised them. Yeah, I raised them, and then we sent them out here because of the vaccine stuff to be with their ex. And my ex, to her credit, has mostly been a Disneyland mom, but has stepped up in the last 2 years. But she's just not a good mom. So both of my daughters are, becoming an issue. So we decided literally 2 days ago, we had a group team powwow, and we're like, you guys are gonna live with us full time. So. Cool. It used to be it was every other week, so I always would get a chance. But now I got to figure out how I'm going to spend an hour with each one every night, right? Because they're going to be with me every day. I mean, Monday through Friday, not Saturday, Sunday, because they got their own stuff going on. So that, and then really, dude, man, I know I do this to my community and to the people that rely on me out there just to continue to be a source of wisdom, but to really strengthen and deepen my roots with my connection with God. You know what I mean? And that is, for me, that is, like I said, just spending time in nature.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Obviously I pray and I have my affirmations and I do all that stuff every day, but I really want to get out in nature as much as possible.
Man, love that.
I freaking love that. That was a great answer, brother.
Full fueled.
That is living full fueled, man. Thank you so much for coming on
Thank
the
you
show,
so
bro.
much.
We love you, man.
Live full fueled.
Live
Live beyond
fueled.
limits,
Live
baby.
beyond limits.
Thanks, guys.